This book is going to feature into this response video. This is Christophe Clugston, also known as the Jedi Dog Master. And I'm going to be talking a reaction to the latest Nate Schomer and Bow Wow Bill podcast. Because if you know anything about me, I am the Ralph Nader and Kevin Samuels of the dog sphere. So that means truth in advertising. So what's going on? Well, let me start this out by saying that Nate Schomer is a good dog trainer. He was an honor graduate at the Tom Rose School of Dog Training, one of the few dog training schools that you will get a job at if you graduate, especially at the top. And he also went back and was an instructor there. I take it that he knows about Tom Rose, Gary Patterson, and Susan Bartnick, who were some of the early people in the United States for the Schutzhund, now IGP. And the school kind of leans that way a bit. But that being said, he's talking with Bow Wow Bill, not his real name, but a sobriquet. It's easier to remember. Same thing with the Jedi Dog Master. About Bart Bellone and also about operant and respondent conditioning. Now that book of Pavlov, guaranteed none of them have read, nor any of these other people who talk about Pavlov, because they're repeating mistakes, lies. And that's the thing. When you have people who just don't have the education level, they're not scholars, they go off of hackneyed information taught to them by other people who learned it second, third, fourth hand. They don't have that academic university level type of education. They didn't have to meet those qualifications or standards. They're just not scholars. But the problem is, that's fine. Nobody stopped them from going to university and actually getting a degree like I have in behaviorism. So let me back up a bit, because if you don't know who I am, I have a degree in behaviorism. I am a scholar. I'm academically published, and I've been cited in other people's papers over 80 times at this point. And I've been training dogs for 51 years, longer than both of those guys put together. And I've done quite a few different things. Now, Bow Wow Bill will talk about also that he went through the Keeler School that now exists of dog training. Well, actually, Bill Keeler was my first mentor when I was very young. He was known as a guy who changed dog training, made it very systematic, sequential, and structured. And he was basically doctrine for many military dog training systems around the world to this day. However, he was also the head trainer for the Disney Studios for films. Now, this is where he kind of faltered. A lot of things people don't know is he wasn't that good of a movie trainer at all because of the way he trained. And he employed a lot of assistant trainers who were far better than he was. Frank Inn, for example, and Bill Keeler's best dog was probably Bullet, a bull terrier. And the work that he did, he had many assistant trainers. He also trained Big Red, the Irish setter for that movie, and the two Great Danes that were in the Swiss Family Robinson. And I can tell you the whole history of who he trained, who was around, but all these people in the movie industry at that time all knew each other. So he didn't equal the Weatherwaxes at all, and he certainly didn't equal Lee Duncan. Now that's important because the mentality, the ideology of what everyone is saying is that Keeler was using very operant conditioning method that's very clear, very clear. And people who have said, like Michael Ellis, have said, yeah, that's the period of doing things out of compulsion and praise, or teaching the dog through doing things that were wrong and then correcting the dog, which is a lot of negative reinforcement, actually. Fine, that it works, and it works with a whole lot of dogs. But now let's segue into what Nate and Bow Wow Bill were talking about, which is really just a big giant infomercial for Bart Bellone. If you don't know who Bart Bellone is, he popularized e-collars, electronic collars, and through his system of renaming operant conditioning, calling it NAPO-PO, but actually it stands for negative, positive, positive. So in English, that should be NE-PA-PA. Those are the vowel changes if you're following that. Now these things are important because they make a lot of errors. One of the things Bow Wow Bill says right off the bat is about the bell and Pavlov. The bell indicates the salivation of dogs. Pavlov never used a bell. Plus, Pavlov was actually not interested in training dogs whatsoever. This became a sidebar, and he didn't even use the terminology that is used now to define what he did. He was a physiologist. He did a lot of things with dogs about the gastric system and such, and killed hundreds of dogs. Killed hundreds of dogs. A lot of people don't know that. Live vivisection of the dogs, tubes running from their stomach through their mouth out to measuring of the salivation. What they were calling classical conditioning or Pavlovian conditioning is known better by respondent conditioning. That's the actual term. If you went to a university, you would learn that this is called respondent conditioning. Now you've got lots of people, Nate, you've got Bow Wow Bill, the guy in Miracle Canine, Michael Ellis, they don't understand what respondent conditioning is. They make loads of errors with it. They confuse it with other things. And it's pretty evident to anyone who has academic training that they don't know what they're talking about when they talk about classical conditioning. They make mistakes. And it's easy for me to prove them wrong. Now you're going to say, hey, well then, show us in this. Well, look, I'll do the same thing that they do. Nate charges a lot of money for training. The Bow Wow Bill guy charges an exorbitant amount for pet dogs, which I have a whole video on the whole pet dog owners exploitation. Bart Bellone charges thousands and thousands of dollars, and one of the things that people don't like right now in his system, and he has the silver school and the gold school, is that he's forcing people to use his e-collar, which is not very good. People don't like it. It's way overpriced. But if you don't use his e-collar, he has all these rationalizations, but the motivation is to jack up his money coming in. That's really what it's about. If you don't do it, you're kicked out. So a lot of people are pretty angry that they've spent $20,000, $30,000 or more to learn his stuff, and now they're not certified by him any longer. And Nate says, go to as many schools as possible. He's talking about Ivan the Bulgarian, for example, Michael Ellis, for example, of Bart Ballone's school. Going to these schools going to cost you over $100,000 when it's said and done. Travel, bring in your dog, taking off if you're working. You've got to be independently wealthy to afford this sort of thing, and they're making errors because none of these people are academically trained. They make errors on these things. And this is evident for the very fact that they haven't been doing it long enough. I mean, Michael Ellis has been around for a long time. Bart Bellone has been around almost as long as I have. I'm 51 years in this, and I have specifically trained dogs from the Arctic to the jungle on 3 continents, and many, many different types of dogs, more than Bart Bellone. I mean, I've trained sled dogs, gun dogs, bird dogs, sentry dogs, and my 2 big influences, of course, are movie dog training and data-driven tactical dogs. Now, these guys don't know about the data-driven tactical dog training. They don't know about movie training either. A lot of people overlook this. This is one of the things that why Robert Weatherwax and I, the last of the legendary Lassie trainers, talk about this and offer workshops and consultations, etc. on this. Few people know about it whatsoever. If you do not believe that I know what I'm talking about, bet me money. Bet me money. Just like Miracle Canine, he refused to. He was acting as if he knew what classical conditioning was, and you've got them on this podcast talking about you go from operant conditioning, you train the dog in operant conditioning, then it becomes classical conditioning. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. They do not know what they're talking about. And a big key, if they knew Mechner notation, they'd be able to see that what they're saying is completely wrong. But the thing is, it's fine for them to be confused and for them to be completely ignorant of really what operant and respondent conditioning are, and confusing learning methods and such. But they're posing as experts, telling other people, and it gets handed down like an old wives' tale. Gets repeated. The earth is flat, the earth is flat, the earth is flat. This sort of thing. We just can't have that. Just like Ralph Nader, you can't let the auto industry tell lies. And that's what I'm saying here. Now, these guys can cure their ignorance. They can. Why haven't they done it? I don't know. Why haven't they done it? I don't know. And if the people say, well, yeah, hey, come on, prove yourself, do this and that. Nobody has passed the Jedi Dog Master Challenge. And let me bring that up because of all these guys, Miracle Canine, Nate even, and the Bow Wow Bill. This is a dog trainer challenge. Now, a lot of people have taken the quarter mile sit stay recall. They've taken that as the big deal. That's not the big deal. That's just a qualifier. And Larry Crone didn't make it. He did bogus video that he didn't do the quarter mile. All these people, it's easy, it's couldn't do it. Where's your video? Can't do it. And I've had several people try to 3-dog challenge. They fail. They can't do it. And the one thing that no one else is going to be able to do is teaching a switch limp to a dog that weighs over 100 pounds with no tail. Okay, look at Akuma, the most famous monster American bulldog on the internet. I have done that. All these people who are good trainers for trick training and even freestyle, which are really good trainers actually, they can't do it. They're used to border collies, they're used to Australian shepherds or poodles. Their method will not work. They don't know the method, stemming back to Lee Duncan with Rin Tin Tin, the greatest action dog in movies ever. No one has equaled what Rin Tin Tin did to this day as an action dog. This is the thing. If you cannot match me on the Jedi Dog Master Challenge, you're not at my level. It's just pure and simple. It's a trainer's skill thing. It's not a niche only skill. Many different types of dogs, many different types of skills are needed. You can't cherry pick the dogs like you can in a sport, like what Tom Rose is doing. Thing on selecting the right puppy and doing the imprinting. That's also a mislabeling of the Conrad Lawrence terminology. But I want to set this straight. Why don't these people opposing as experts actually learn what respondent conditioning is? Why don't they clear up the factor that they're confused? They don't know the difference between operant conditioning and respondent conditioning. Don't let them confuse you. And if they think that I'm wrong, bet me money. Bet me $5,000. Let's go. And also the Jedi Dog Master Challenge remains $5,000. Step up. Step up. You're going to lose.